a quiet corner of the Big Apple of New York City, there lived a girl named Samantha. She was only 20 years old and attended Bellevue College, where she studied literature. Her unusual thick curls and special eye color, rich green, like leaves in spring, attracted attention, but at the same time, due to her timid nature, she often suffered from isolation and misunderstanding from her peers. In the same city lived Brad, a confident and charismatic man, the owner of a thriving online bookstore, known for his intelligence and excellent literary taste. Always dressed in elegant clothes and with impeccable manners, he seemed mysterious. In fact, Brad was the scion of an aristocratic family and was rumored to be haunted by ancient family curses that only a few knew about. Fate brought Samantha and Brad together in a cozy book cafe, almost hidden from prying eyes, where, to the sounds of jazz, they looked at each other for the first time. He saw her as more than just a smart girl with a book in her hands. She felt that he was able to see her true essence through social masks. After several chance meetings, Samantha and Brad discovered a surprising connection. They each had their own burdens and fears, but it was those fears that made them stronger when they were together. One night, as the wind whipped through the streets of New York, they shared moments of sincerity in a darkened corner of a dimly lit bar. There, in the cocoons of their imperfections, they found solace in each other's forgotten world. "Samantha, I feel like you are my healing," Brad whispered in the rush of that night, devastated by a nagging inner anxiety. And although their lives were filled with new challenges and uncharted roads, the connections they created became the foundation for them. Samantha found in Brad a mirror in which she could see her reflection, free from the judgment of the world. And Delirium found in her a meaning that could dispel the fogs of his curse. The soft light of the lanterns cast shadows on the narrow streets of Manhattan, where Brad and Samantha stood in the cramped courtyard of one of the old houses. She looked at him, apparently trying to understand the reason for his quiet sadness, which so often clouded his gaze. Samantha, startled by the unexpected touch, discovered that Brad was holding her hand. "You have to help me, please. What you need?" Her voice was gentle, but anxiety filled her heart. "Kiss me, Samantha. Only you can take this coldness away from my heart," he whispered, his hand shaking as he took off his sunglasses, revealing a worried look. Unable to take her eyes off his large, expressive eyes, full of silent request, Samantha trembled, not knowing what was hidden behind this strange request. She raised her hand to touch his soft features and felt awe. "Sorry, Brad. Are you all right?" She frowned, but noticed how he sighed and nodded slightly. Without warning, Brad moved closer and pressed his lips gently to hers. They froze for a moment, and then his kiss became more confident. Samantha felt her own warmth returning to her, spreading throughout her body. "I really needed this. You," he said, stepping back, and his eyes shone not with external light, but from within, with happiness and gratitude. Samantha, still not believing what had happened, rubbed her lips in embarrassment, but her smile was irresistible. "Nonsense. What was that?" He caught the question in her gaze and took her hands in his again. "It was the beginning of healing, the beginning of our story. You make me feel truly alive." And that evening, the streets of New York witnessed a new chapter in the story of Samantha and Brad, where tender kisses and shocks of the soul changed their fate forever. As the warmth of the kiss faded into the cool evening air, Brad looked at Samantha intently, his eyes reflecting the feelings awakened by their unexpected closeness. He stood and extended his hand to help her up from the cold stone bench where they had found privacy. His gestures were full of sincerity, but at the same time, some uncertainty, as if for the first time he felt such a deep, true connection with someone. "Why do I feel like you're a part of me, even though we barely recognize each other?" he wondered to himself, as Samantha hesitated for a moment before grabbing his hand. Samantha, whose gaze was glued to the ground, slowly raised her eyes to Brad. The curly hair that she had so often considered a burden now fell in front of her face, creating an aura of mystery. "You influenced me like no one else," she muttered. "But this is also new and scary." His smile was soft and reassuring. "Sometimes, Samantha, the most unexpected things turn out to be the most sincere and necessary." Brad said. He watched in surprise as she sighed and relaxed in his strong arms. They quietly became closer again, and in the silence of the night city, where everyone was looking for their destiny, Brad and Samantha slowly revealed their souls to each other. "Whoever you are, Samantha, I need your light," Brad said quietly, looking into the depths of her unusual green eyes. "My name is Samantha," she whispered back, knowing she could trust this stranger who made her feel so valuable. And then they both knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would look for each other in the crowd, united by something sublime, the beginning of something great and indefinable, which could only be love. Unexpectedly, in that moment of sincerity, Brad squeezed her hand a little tighter than he expected. Samantha, suddenly feeling weak, instinctively squeezed his hand in response, but her nervous laugh quickly turned to trembling, and she gently bit his hand. "Oh!" Brad pulled his hand away from the unexpected pain and looked at Samantha in confusion. "What you?" "I'm sorry," she said, barely audible, and the next moment she ran away, leaving him standing with a red imprint of teeth on his hand. She suddenly realized that their interaction had gone too far, and her only desire was to take a step back. "Samantha!" Brad called, but it was too late. She had already disappeared into the city night. The noise of the city drowned out his call, as did the internal anxiety that became his constant companion. Brad sighed and, taking advantage of the moment, headed back to his room, hiding from curious glances that could recognize him as a famous entrepreneur. Walking past the mirror, Brad noticed the reflection of his smile imprinted on his body. Deep down, he felt strangely satisfied that he had found someone who could make him feel so strongly, even if it meant the road to understanding would not be easy. He walked home, careful not to be ambushed by the paparazzi, his thoughts occupied with Samantha, a girl with a strange name who opened a note of unexpected music in his heart. That night began a new chapter, full of hopes and secret desires that Brad was willing to explore, no matter what. Brad returned to his apartment, located in a high skyscraper with a stunning view of the lights of New York. Sitting on the balcony, he buried his face in the cold gusts of wind, allowing him to collect his thoughts. The incident that evening in the closed courtyard where he and Samantha were was still vividly reproduced in his memory. How strange, he thought, that a simple kiss can cause such a powerful surge of emotions and sensations. I think about it. A man appeared next to him, approaching Brad from behind. This was Ryan, not only Brad's best friend, but also his trusted advisor in many life and business situations. "Yes, today was an eventful day," Brad admitted in a tired voice. "You look worried. What's happened?" Ryan looked at his friend with sympathy. "Once upon a time there was a girl, Samantha. It was as if she gave me something that I had never felt," he opened, looking at the heavens, as if looking for answers in them. "Samantha? Is this the one whose feelings you found the key to?" Ryan asked, narrowing his eyes. "Not really," Brad purred, "but her proximity does something to me. I feel as if I have regained strength that I thought was lost." Ryan looked at his friend with interest. "You like her, right?" "It looks like it," said Brad, thoughtfully looking around the night panorama of the city. "Be careful, Brad. You know you have to be careful about jumping to conclusions," Ryan warned him, always on guard when it came to his friend's sensitive feelings. "I know, I need to see her again," Brad concluded, as if his decision had already been made. And then, under the shadow of the sky, silently looking at them, the two friends stood side by side, reflecting on how the mysterious ways of the heart can change the path of a person's life. And now, in this sleepless city, Brad knew his heart was longing to find Samantha, and the answers they could find together. The next morning, Samantha got out of a taxi in front of Bellevue College, where she studied. She wore a simple but elegant gray dress that showed off her figure, and her curly hair was neatly tied into a bun. She did not forget about her glasses, which have now become an integral part of her image. Despite the internal storm of feelings after yesterday's meeting with Brad, she walked confidently. "Hello, stranger!" someone shouted sarcastically from a group of fashionably dressed students. Samantha just smiled softly in response and continued on her way, ignoring the unfriendly comments. She knew that she should not waste her energy on empty arguments with those who did not see the depths of her soul. "Have you prepared breakfast for us today?" one of the girls asked when she saw her lunchbox. "Yes," "I hope you like my recipe too," Samantha replied as she continued to walk towards her class. Then something unexpected happened. One of the girls snatched the lunchbox from Samantha's hands and brazenly poured its contents directly onto the floor. At this moment, Samantha felt overwhelmed, but she swallowed her sadness and crouched down to collect the scattered food. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly fought them back, trying to stay strong. And then suddenly, someone pushed away the group of girls and students who had frozen around. Brad appeared with his ever-present charm and confidence and approached Samantha. "What are you doing here?" Her voice sounded confused. "I came for you," Brad said, and, not paying attention to the curious looks of those around him, sat down next to Samantha and helped her collect food from the floor. "You shouldn't have to endure this kind of treatment." His voice was both gentle and firm. "It's none of your business," Samantha tried to argue, but his support was priceless. Brad simply smiled back and continued helping her. When they finished, he stood up and looked at the girls across from him. "It's not written on you that you're better than others," he said calmly, and then turned to Samantha. "Come with me?" Samantha nodded in awe and surprise. Together, they left the college cafeteria under the admiring glances of those who had recently laughed at her. And now Samantha's path led into the unknown, but she was not alone. The silhouettes of Brad and Samantha slowly disappeared from view, but remained carefully preserved in the hearts of those who witnessed the beginning of their common story. And on this day, Samantha managed to find what she had been looking for so long: respect, understanding, and perhaps the beginning of a new love. Samantha, who heard the students' ridicule, felt bitterness fill her chest. She tried to hold back her tears, realizing that weakness would not help her in such a situation. Next to her was her friend and classmate Emily, and after hearing the harsh words addressed to Samantha, she was clearly furious. "Don't pay them any attention, Samantha. They're not worth your tears," Emily tried to reassure her, but there was indignation in her voice. "Please, let's get out of here," Samantha said quietly, taking Emily's hand and leading her away from the students who continued to whisper and mock her. "Samantha!" Emily shouted, following her. But Samantha was already far away, heading through the corridors of the college to the most secluded place, which she considered her refuge. When she found peace at the foot of the old stairs, where she could hide from everyone, Samantha finally gave vent to her feelings. "Why are people so cruel? Why does appearance matter so much?" Her whisper was full of despair. Without seeing the drops of tears rolling down her face, students passing by had no idea that standing before them was someone who was only striving to find understanding in this chaotic world. Brad, passing by, heard a quiet scream and stopped, concerned. He came closer and saw Samantha, his Samantha, sitting alone, hugging her knees and lost in grief. "Samantha," he called quietly, and she raised her head and looked at him in amazement through her tears. Her pained expression struck his heart. "Let me share your problems," he said, sitting down next to you. In his presence, Samantha felt that, despite the grief around her, she was not alone. And in the incessant tears, there was also the confidence that with Brad around, even the darkest days become brighter.